Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you. Whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 135th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and this week I'm going to talk to you all about those travel obstacles, the hesitations that keep you from realizing your travel dreams. In my years of advising and planning travel, which is almost a decade now, I have heard almost every reason or excuse in the book why guests can't take the trip. And if I'm being honest, I'm going to be real with you for a moment. I think that sometimes people love the idea of travel more than travel itself. So they make justifications for why they can't travel. However, I have always fallen in the camp of where there is a will, there is a way. If you don't want to explore the world, this episode will not change your mind. Even though it is true that travel is the only thing you buy that makes you richer. But if your heart really longs to travel and you just have hesitations, you keep getting in your own way or other obstacles keep getting in your way, then I want to help you by disproving some of these. So these are the top 8 reasons why people give themselves and me why they cannot travel or cannot travel now. All right, number 1, we're just going to hit the ground running. I have no money for travel. This is a big one, right? Budget's important. Maybe you want to travel, but you're like, I can't travel if my bank account says that I can only go to work. That's the only place I can go. So we're going to start with the biggest hurdle, all right? This is our elephant in the room. How do you travel if you don't have the funds to travel? How do you save? How do you plan? Okay, these are some ways. Speaking of planning in advance is one of the ways that you can make it happen. You might not be able to pull it out of a hat, travel last minute, which oftentimes is more expensive than if you've planned a year or even 2 years in advance. So that's how you start. You know how you used to be able to put everything on layaway for Christmas, and it's almost a thing of the past now? But you can put your trips on layaway, depending on the type of trip you're taking. Maybe it's as simple as opening a travel savings account and just telling yourself that every week, every month, you're just going to put a little bit in there at a time and not be able to touch it for anything else. It's all about priorities. I tell everyone, you cannot do everything. We all have a budget and our budgets are all different, but there is no way you can do everything you want to do. So you think about what you prioritize. And if travel is what you prioritize, you can make it happen. It's just going to take a little bit of work. But sometimes I tell everyone, I'm like, you have to prioritize, like, are you going to get that new vehicle this year? Or if your vehicle is perfectly fine, it's running great, that maybe you keep the same vehicle for another year or 2 years or until the wheels fall off, and you put that money that you would have needed to put into a brand new vehicle that you didn't want, you just needed, and you put that in adventures. Same with eating out. And I am so guilty of spending a lot of money eating out at a restaurant. Now, I love eating out. It is a hobby of mine, and I enjoy it immensely. So I'm not saying stop eating out or stop going to get your coffee from Starbucks. But what I am saying, if you're looking for ways to find money to travel, sometimes you just have to look at your own habits and see if there's anything else you're prioritizing instead that you want to cut back on so you can make travel a priority. There's other options. How do you save money in travel? I tell my clients I'm going to be completely upfront and honest with you on what a realistic budget is. Sometimes you just don't know, right? Like you've never been there before. How would you know what a realistic budget is? There's no expectation then that you would know, but I will tell you flights are going to eat into a budget very quickly. I'll have guests come to me with a family of 4, a family of 5, have a very realistic sounding budget for if they're driving somewhere. But if they're flying, their entire budget is going to be eaten up by the flights alone. So there's options with that, right? Like there's some that like, well, I'm going to save my miles, or maybe I can be gifted miles, or, I'm going to use a credit card, pay it back every month, get the points, get the miles, have a free companion ticket every year. There's ways. I am not a credit card travel guru by any means, but I have learned some ways to make your money work for you. Maybe it's you're cutting back on the number of nights you're staying, the level of stars of the place that you're staying at. Maybe it's you're willing to drive a little bit further to the activities because convenience is costly. Another one, you can camp. You can go off season. You can travel with friends to split an accommodation. That can really help save. And again, driving over flying, looking for options of ways that you can cut back in price, that is going to be one of the best ones. All right, excuse number 2, or travel block number 2. I am too young or too old. You are only too young or too old if you believe you are. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't certain restrictions to certain destinations. So, for example, like if you wanted to go to an adult all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean, 18 is the age. If you want to book your own room at a Universal resort in Orlando, Florida, 21 is your age. You have to be a certain age. But when I say too young or too old, I have clients all the time that say, well, I would like to go to Europe. I don't want to leave my children. I'm like, take them with you. Like, oh, they're too young. Well, Christian went to his first trip to Europe when he was 8 months old, and it was marvelous for me and him. Was it always easy? Not necessarily easy. But being at home with him, I tell everyone, was not always easy either. So we definitely got to change his scenery. So I don't believe in that everywhere is too young. Your child is too young to go everywhere. That you do want to match the destination for what fits you in the time. What about you think you're too old? Well, if you think someone is too old to travel, or if you feel you're too old to travel, you should see pictures of my mom and I. I hope she doesn't listen to this because she's going to take that the wrong way. Not that my mother is old. She is not. She is amazing. She is joyful. She is beautiful. She is young in spirit. But she would say, travel when you are young because it gets more difficult the older you get. At the same time, she got her first passport at age 72 when she went to the Netherlands with us. I'm not telling you how old she is now. Well, you're going to know because we're celebrating her 80th birthday this summer in Jamaica. My mother should be proud because not only is that an amazing age, but she definitely does not look or act her age in a good way, right? Like you are only as old as you feel, and she is definitely young at heart. So you're not too old to go somewhere. It is all like what you physically feel able to do, and there's all about making accommodations for what makes it easier. So I've personally picked places for her that are going to be easier to travel to, and we've learned some things over the years, what works and what is harder, and so you can make accommodations for that. All right, number 3, I have no one to travel with. Well, if you're a woman and you're saying I have no one to travel with, I just told you we have a girls' trip that I have opened up for all ladies to go with us to Ocho Rios in July. So if you're interested and you say, I have no one to travel with, I don't want to go alone, there's an option. There's other options too. There are other groups of women that travel together. Even if you want to stay within the United States, those are options there. And sometimes it just takes getting the group together yourself. Sometimes it takes I want to meet people who want to travel, but I want it to be someone at least that someone knows them. I want to make a connection. So you can travel in a group, you can make your own group, you can join an existing group, a girls' trip that's going. I have women that have traveled by themselves to different destinations. One of my clients went to Italy alone. I have other clients who have gone throughout the U.S. alone. I have others who they're like, well, we want to go on a cruise. So you'll be around people even if you are not traveling with someone. You're setting yourself in a place where you will be around other people, can make new friends. I also know, a client who has been to Morocco multiple times and has made lots of new friendships from her own adventures. So you never have to travel alone. But if you did want to travel alone, I have a whole episode all about traveling alone safely. Okay, number 4. I have no time off. I know that in the U.S., we do not have great vacation time benefits like they do in Europe. Not everyone's getting 6 weeks of vacation. Am I right? Like sometimes it's just amazing to have 2 weeks vacation or 3 or 4 weeks vacation. But we can work with what we have. I have a lot of clients who they get off 2 weeks a year for vacation, and we have to work around those. 4th of July week for shutdown, Christmas to New Year's week for shutdown. And if you have a limited time off, we can work in your range. You know when you have off, and that we can plan ahead. Maybe it's utilizing a long weekend. Maybe you get off weekends, Saturday and Sunday, and the occasional Monday if it's a holiday. We can work with that. You can go on an international trip in 3 nights. I have clients that go to Jamaica, the Bahamas. I've been on multiple trips that have only been 3-night trips. So you can go with a limited time off. Maybe it's you're doing day trips this year as you're building up your vacation time or your PTO. Maybe it's shorter overnight trips, 1 or 2 nights. I have lots of options for those as well. Number 5, I have no childcare. Well, the simple solution to that is take the kids with you. They like to explore and they want to see the world too, and you're making those memories together. Remember, I always say, make those memories with your family. You won't regret it. I didn't say it would be easy the whole time, but you will still not regret it. Looking back, you'll be glad you had those together. So if you don't have childcare, reliable childcare, grandparents are not able or in the picture to help, you do not have consistent babysitters, take your children with you. Whether it's you can go on a cruise, an all-inclusive, there's experiences, destinations, Adventures by Disney. You can do that where you're traveling with other families. Speaking of, go with your other best family friends. That's something that we do a lot. So we want our children to travel with us. And they go with us on almost every adventure. They are really excited about a big adventure that we have coming up this summer where we're going to Croatia. But travel with other families. We have some of our best friends. They live in Georgia, and we travel together almost every year. Like it has become a tradition, a Tate Safely tradition, whether it's a cruise, whether it's going to Jamaica like we did a couple years ago to an all-inclusive together, or going to Europe together when we went to the Netherlands. Like we like to travel together. Sometimes we're taking a weekend trip and we're going to Chattanooga or Atlanta. Like it can be close by destinations. It doesn't have to be an international trip, but travel with another family. And then you can each have a date night if you wanted to do it that way. Like if you think, okay, we'll keep the kids one night, you guys go out to dinner, and another night you keep all the kids together and we'll go on a date night. So if you have no childcare, that is not a reason to not travel. Take them with you. Number 6, I am too busy. Everyone is busy. Maybe not everyone. Almost everyone is busy. It goes back to, like I said, with budget, it's all about priorities. You can value what you do as in a career and still realize you need to be able to take time off. You need to take time for yourself. It makes you more effective. Your family should be your first priority because as we know, as we have seen, as important and special as our workplaces may be, we are replaceable for them. You are irreplaceable for your family. And so taking the time off for yourself and for them is not just something you should do, it's something you need to do. Number 7, I have no pet care. You can take your pets with you in some situations, right? You need to know which locations are pet friendly, what their rules or requirements are. Are they going to require additional pet deposit? Is there a certain pound limit? These are things that you can know. There are also some amazing pet sitters in our area who come with good references, and they will come to your house if you do not have a boarding facility. There are some wonderful boarding facilities nearby where you can make arrangements for your pets to be well taken care of while you're gone. And number 8, I'm saving this for last. I am waiting until retirement. I understand that we always think that someday is going to be better. Someday I'll have more money for this. Someday I'll have more time for this. But we don't always know if someday's going to be around, right? We're promised now. We have now. And I have seen too many times where people keep waiting and putting off a trip and putting off the trip, all for good reasons. It's not that any of these are not legit reasons. They are all true travel obstacles that we deal with. Excuse me. But sometimes we can keep these obstacles in our way, and they keep us from ever living our travel dreams. And sometimes if you wait until retirement, then that means you are not traveling with who you always wanted to travel with. So there is something for planning for the future. That is important. It is important to have goals and a bucket list and memories and things that you want to do in the future to look forward to. I'm not discounting any of that. I think it is wonderful. I think if you have a goal to live on a cruise ship in your retirement, and travel the world, I think that's fantastic. It is on my list. I believe that is how I would like to retire. But what I'm saying is don't keep putting off everything for then. We are not promised our health. We are not promised destinations will be as accessible to go to as they are currently. We don't know. So if there's somewhere you really want to go, if there's something you really want to do, make a plan. And that's how you turn those dreams into realities. That's all the time we have for this week. Talk Travel with Heather Tate. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wherever you go, whatever you do, life is a great adventure that you make it. Make those memories with your family. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.